Hello, and Merry Christmas Eve to everybody tuning in tonight. Tonight is a bit of an interesting night as far as story time goes, because in Disney fashion, they saved their most recent story as their final story. But that being said, it's not exactly a Christmas story, so I've decided that I will not only be reading Onward tonight, but I will finish the night with a Christmas classic of the night before Christmas, because that is what tonight is. So I will read both of them to you tonight. So let's get started with Onward. In a world where magic had been replaced by technology, Ian Lightfoot was a shy teenage elf who lived with his mom, brother Barley, and their pet dragon, Blazy. Ian and Barley's dad had passed away when the boys were very young. Ian missed his dad every day and wished that he could talk to him for real. Today was Ian's 16th birthday, and his mom, Laurel, had a surprise for him. Ian and Barley's dad had left a special gift for them, which was only to be opened when both boys had turned 16. Inside was a real wizard staff, a rare phoenix gem, and a visitation spell. They would allow Ian and Barley to bring back their dad for one day only. Up in Ian's bedroom, the brothers tried the spell, and suddenly a beam of light shot out of the staff. Then their father's shoes and socks began to materialize, but Ian was struggling to hold the staff steady. Barley tried to help, but the gem exploded. They thought the spell had failed until they heard something rustling in the wardrobe. It was their dad, but only his bottom half. His legs staggered around, and Ian was upset to see his father's confusion. Barley tapped out a rhythm on Dad's shoes, just like he'd done as a child. Dad tapped his foot in reply, then placed his foot on Ian's. He knew his sons were with him. Now Ian and Barley had to find another phoenix gem to retry the spell before sunset. But first, they had to get a map to help them. "We'll start at the place where all quests begin," said Barley confidently. "The Manticore's Tavern." The Manticore was a legendary 1,000-year-old warrior. Ian had his doubts, but the three Lightfoot men piled into Guinevere, Barley's truck, and drove off. Along the way, Ian used old clothes to make an upper body for Dad. You see Dad there in the middle with a hoodie and sunglasses. When they arrived at the tavern, they found it was now a family-friendly restaurant, hosting birthday parties and karaoke. And the Manticore, now better known as Cory, was no longer the fearsome beast spoken about in legend. Barley asked Cory for the map, but she refused. Cory now believed quests were dangerous. Barley reminded Cory that she used to take risks and lived for adventure. Realizing she was living a lie, the Manticore cried out, "What have I become?" Then she blew fire around the tavern, burning everything modern. Suddenly, a flaming wooden beam started falling toward Dad. Using the staff, Ian was able to use a levitation spell and save him. On a menu, which was based on the original map, Barley found a clue that led to Raven's Point, so they jumped in Guinevere. On the way, they needed to get gas. As Ian was filling up the gas can, he heard Dewdrop, the leader of a motorcycle club of tough-talking sprites called Pixie Dusters, arguing with Barley. Then Dad accidentally bumped into the Pixie Dusters' motorbikes, and they all fell over. The sprites were furious. Ian, Barley, and Dad jumped in Guinevere and managed to get away. Oopsie. I mean, you can't tell where you're going when you got no top half, right? However, they were soon pulled over by the police. Ian used a disguise spell to cloak himself and Barley in an image of Officer Bronco, their mom's boyfriend. But the spell came with a rule. If Ian lied, a part of the disguise would disappear. The plan worked until one of the officers called Barley a screw-up. When Ian disagreed, one leg vanished. Barley knew Ian had lied. Uh-oh. And there's his leg popping back out there. Having got away from the police, Ian tried to explain that he didn't think his brother was a screw-up, but Barley knew magic didn't lie. Barley turned on the music in the van and got out. I don't know how any of this stuff works, exclaimed Ian. All I know is everything we've done tonight has gone wrong. It's gone wrong because you won't listen to me, replied Barley. Suddenly, Dad started dancing to the vibrations of the music. He strutted over to the boys and got them dancing too. With the tension broken, Barley said he wanted the chance to prove himself, and Ian agreed to do things his way. Meanwhile, worried about her sons, Laurel had been to the burning tavern, where the Manticore told her about their quest. The tavern owner then remembered about the Phoenix Gem curse, which she'd forgotten to mention to Barley and Ian. The only thing that would help against the curse was her enchanted sword, the Curse Crusher. They raced to the pawn shop and managed to get the sword back at an inflated price from the greedy owner, Grecklin. Back on the quest, Ian, Barley, and Dad had reached a statue of a raven. Barley realized that the clue wasn't leading them to Raven's Point. It was telling them to go where the ravens were pointing. Sure enough, when they looked in the direction the statue pointed, they could see another raven in the distance. Ian was impressed. Maybe his brother had been right all along. Following where the ravens were pointing, they eventually came to a raven that stood near a river. There was a loose stone on the raven, which Barley pulled out. The strange symbol on the stone gave him an idea. We go to the end of the water and we'll find that Phoenix Gem, said Barley. Ian, Barley, and Dad followed the river into a cave. Using magic, Ian made a raft from one of Barley's cheese puffs. Along the way, Ian practiced other spells. He felt more confident that he would be able to perform the visitation spell again and finally meet his dad. At that moment, Barley shared a sad memory. When their dad was in the hospital, Barley was too scared to go into his room to say goodbye. Barley sighed. That's when I decided I was never going to be scared again. The river ended at the entrance to the final gauntlet. Barley said the Phoenix Gem would be on the other side. They ran through the tunnel and entered a small chamber, which started to fill with water. The boys guided Dad to a portal opening. They climbed through the portal into the sunlight above. But they discovered they were back in New Mushroomton, right where they started. No, this doesn't make sense, exclaimed Barley. This has to be where the Phoenix Gem is. I followed my gut. Ian was crushed. He'd trusted his brother, and it had got them nowhere. Ian walked away with Dad, leaving Barley alone. Ian sat on a cliff as the sun began to set and pulled out the list of things he'd wanted to do with his father. He was about to scribble them all out when Ian realized something. He'd already done them all. Not with Dad, but with Barley. He thought about all the times during his life that his brother had encouraged him, had fun with him, and helped him become a better person. Barley had always been there for Ian. Now Ian would return the favor. In the meantime, Barley noticed that the stone from the raven statue fit perfectly in the old fountain. It opened up, and a hidden chamber revealed the Phoenix Gem. Ian returned to help, but suddenly a smoky mist poured out from the fountain. It was the curse. A fire-breathing beast stomped towards Barley. "Run!" he shouted to Ian. Just then, a dark shape swooped down from the sky. It was the Manticore wielding the Curse Crusher, with Laurel riding on her back. If you look closely, you can see the Manticore and their mom swooping in. While Laurel and the Manticore battled the dragon, Ian put the Phoenix Gem in place and cast the visitation spell. This caught the dragon's attention. Barley wanted to distract it so Ian could finally meet Dad. "No," exclaimed Ian. "You say goodbye. I had someone who looked out for me, someone who pushed me to be more than I ever thought I could be. I never had a dad, but I always had you." Ian hit the dragon with a spell as Laurel tossed the Curse Crusher to him, and he plunged it deep into the curse. The dragon exploded with a blinding flash. Suddenly, there was another burst of light. Ian saw Dad fully materializing in front of Barley. Tears filled Ian's eyes as Barley and Dad talked. When the sun set, Dad hugged Barley and then disappeared. Barley told his brother how proud Dad was of Ian. Ian smiled. "Well, I owe an awful lot of that to you." "He kind of said that too," said Barley. "Oh, and he told me to give you this." Barley gave his brother a big hug. The quest had changed the Lightfoot family. Each of them had discovered things about themselves they hadn't known before, and the experience of seeing Dad return, even briefly, had brought the family closer together than ever. No matter what was to come, they would always have each other to lean on. The end. So that's the end of our not quite so festive story, but somewhat recent story that, if you haven't seen it yet, it's a very cute story. So now we move on to our festivities of the evening of the night before Christmas as we get ready for the big guy's arrival. So let's start with that. This book is large enough that I think I can just hold it up, school teacher style. It is a fairly new book, so hopefully the pages don't argue with me too much. Let's see. No, I don't think we want to read the whole introduction. Here we go. My in-frame. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. Is he there yet? Do you see him? Is he in there? No. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn, there rose such a clatter. I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. Oh, do you see them in the corner? With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came. Coursers, they came. Coursers. His coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen. There they go. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away all. As dry leaves before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop, the coursers they flew, with sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas, too. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. Is he getting in the house? Ooh. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. Oh, he knows that he's there. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew, like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night." That was the night before Christmas. I expect many of you are preparing for Santa's arrival tonight, so I guess we'll start to prepare for his arrival around this place as well. So I hope you guys are going to have a wonderful Christmas. Thank you for joining me for all of my Advent stories. It's been really fun sharing them with you. And yeah. Have a good one, guys. Bye.